Hi everyone, and welcome to an outdoor adventure with Georgia Detours. Grab your hiking boots because today we're taking you into the wild to enjoy the nature of Georgia. I'm Darnell McAlpin, and I can't wait to show you the first destination, or should I say the first 5 destinations. Our correspondent Weston will explore 5 waterfalls in only 5 hours. Let's see if he can make it happen.
I'm Weston Manders for GSU TV. Steps away from Lake Rabun Road, we find ourselves at the Angel Falls Trailhead. In a short mile, we'll be at our first stop of the day. 5 waterfalls, 1 day. Can we do it? Pack your bags and let's hit the trail. So we're coming to our first fall here, this stacked stone like steps to the heavens. Man, I could listen to that water rush all day. Yep. Now, this is just our first stop on the way to Angel Falls. This is actually called Panther Falls. Go GSU. No accident there. We still got a little ways to go, probably about half a mile or so up to Angel Falls, but I mean, already I'm having a great day. We made it. Short mile hike in. You can hear those falls just over there. Angel Falls, our first stop of 5 today. We got 5 waterfalls today in North Georgia, 2 hours away from Atlanta. Find this beautiful backdrop. All right, so we left Angel Falls and we're here at Minnehaha Falls. We've got a super short hike in and a beautiful payoff at the end. So both Angel Falls and Minnehaha Falls are below the dam for Lake Rabun that then feeds into Tallulah Gorge. So Minnehaha is the Dakota Native American word for waterfall. There's also a Minnehaha Falls in Minnesota, 50-foot single drop, huge cascading waterfall. Let's go find out what Georgia's got. Here we are at the lower falls, right down about 30 yards from the top of Minnehaha. And it's a little bit longer. What a great hike. What a great day. We made it. I mean, it's a short hike and look at this payoff. You can't help but bring the entire family out. I'm taking my shoes off and hopping in just like these kids. They got the right idea. All right, we're just 30 minutes up the road from Minnehaha, and here we are at Hemlock Falls Trailhead, stop number 3 out of 5 today on Georgia Detour. Let's get to it. Just took a little stop here on Moccasin Creek on our way up to Hemlock Falls. And you can't ask for a more perfect day and a more beautiful spot for a Georgia Detour. Well, we passed a lot of small falls on the way up, but this is the real deal. We made it to Hemlock Falls, stop number 3 out of 5 on this Georgia Detour. 5 waterfalls, 1 day. Hemlock Falls is number 3. And listen to her purr. All right, we've made it to stop number 4, Anaruby Falls, right here in the Chattahoochee National Forest, right outside of Unicoi State Park. We're just north of Unicoi Lake. We're gonna head in. The trail's about half a mile up to the falls and half a mile back down. Anaruby Falls is a 153-foot falls named after a Confederate general's daughter. Let's see what it has to offer. Just one of the many picturesque stops on the way to the top of Anaruby Falls. This is one of Georgia's most visited spots and definitely one of its most populated waterfalls. And I can definitely see why. All right, we've made it to the top. Anaruby Falls right here. And the story goes that a Confederate captain, John H. Nichols, bought the land after the Civil War and named the falls after his only daughter, Anaruby. At the base of the falls, Smith Creek is formed and flows all the way down into Lake Unicoi here in Unicoi State Park. From there, the water converges into the Chattahoochee. What a great place, and what a great stop on Georgia Detours. Let's take a look. A smooth 20 minutes from Anaruby Falls, Dukes Creek is waiting. Georgia Detours is always taking you off the beaten path to some beautiful sights that you might not see otherwise. We're gonna head right down the trail and go to Dukes Creek Falls, our last stop of 5. Right behind me, you can hear Dukes Creek Falls. It's our 5th stop today on Georgia Detours. We've done 5 waterfalls in North Georgia, very close together, an easy ride for you and your family or your friends or just you by yourself. Dukes Creek Falls is fed by Davis Creek at the top, and it flows down to converge with Dukes Creek here at the bottom. Right up the creek, you can find Raven Cliff Falls, and we're not very far from Anaruby Falls. North Georgia has so many beautiful destinations to offer, and here at Georgia Detours, we want to make sure that you have the best time possible off the beaten path. See you later, Georgia Detours. It's time for me to take a dip. All right, I'm coming in.
Weston made that hike look like a breeze. I don't know about you guys, but in between hikes, I would definitely have to take a dip into one of those waterfalls. I mean, that water looked so refreshing. And since we're exploring North Georgia, I thought it would be an opportune time to take a look back at some of our Georgia Detour favorites. With these next few places, you will absolutely want to turn your day of hiking into a weekend getaway. Let's catch back up with Deborah Pierre at the Folk Pottery Museum.
were taking a drive through North Georgia and we took a detour to find Folk Pottery Museum. Director Chris Brooks invited us inside to take a deeper look. So let's go.
Showcasing one of the South's premier grassroots art forms, the Folk Pottery Museum of Northeast Georgia explores the historical importance and changing role of Southern folk pottery.
Well, the museum traces the folk potters here in Northeast Georgia starting about 1820. My background is history and historical archaeology, and I was excavating a site near Madison, Georgia, and recovered pieces of green stoneware that I'd never seen before. Potters were looking for a way to make stoneware without using salt in the glaze. And they developed a glazing system using local clays and lime and wood ashes, which is an alkaline mixture, and that's where the term alkaline glaze comes from. So this greenish glazed pottery that you see throughout the museum is really what makes Southern pottery Southern.
The Folk Pottery Museum of Northeast Georgia is one of just a handful of such museums focusing solely on folk pottery.
This tradition is a tradition of stoneware that began in the Edgefield district of South Carolina. That type of glazing was only done from South Carolina to Texas up into North Carolina and Tennessee until about the 1890s. Then I discovered that there were still potters up here working in Northeast Georgia, so I tried to meet as many of the potters as I could, learn about the tradition and learn how they made their wares. Every culture has some kind of anthropomorphic clay vessel. The face jug is very special in this part of Georgia. A lot of people have questions about where face jugs came from. It's a phenomenon that's found worldwide. In the South, we believe that perhaps it was introduced by slaves in Edgefield who had recently come from Africa and may have made these small face jugs that would hold only a half pint to a pint of liquid, perhaps as ceremonial items. They were making them for practitioners of some type of ceremony. Dave Drake is an interesting figure because he was a slave potter in Edgefield, South Carolina, but he had worked at a newspaper and so was taught to read and write, which was very unusual for the time period. He would sign his pieces and date them, and so they're highly sought after today because of the amount of information that we have on Dave Drake himself. This particular jar is signed with the initials LM up here on the rim, and LM stands for Lewis Miles. Lewis Miles was the pottery owner and the owner of Dave at the time that this pot was made. This writing up here is actually the handwriting of Dave himself. We look at the potters the way a folklorist would. You're either born into a family of folk potters, or you apprentice with one of those families, like the Metters family, or you work in the gardenware business. Those potters that work with them are being trained by folk potters and learn the traditions of the folk craft and can be considered folk potters themselves. So 3 ways that we identify people.
Georgia's pottery is a nationally known tradition. The Metters family was honored in 1978 in a Smithsonian documentary based on their pottery.
In the 1960s and 70s, when the Smithsonian came and filmed the Metters family here in White County, and they actually filmed Lanier Metters making a face jug. We have a number of pieces by Lanier, kind of trace his development as a folk artist. And then some of the face jugs were taken to Washington, D.C. and sold at the Smithsonian, which led to the interest in folk pottery here in Northeast Georgia and the preservation of the craft eventually.
So the next time you're looking for a weekend excursion, take a detour to the North Georgia mountains and discover the Folk Pottery Museum for yourself.
They really have some one-of-a-kind artwork at the Folk Pottery Museum. That face jug is not only eye-catching, but it must have taken a massive amount of time to make all of those intricate details. And speaking of intricate details, I handpicked our final stop from the Georgia Detour Archives. It's one of my personal favorites because it has everything you need to make a round trip to North Georgia. It's time to head to Helen with Trini Beatty.
So what we're coming up on is the half-mile long zip line.
Oh goodness, what a beautiful view. The air feels a little different up here.
It's a little cooler. So this is the beginning of the half-mile long zip line. It's one of the longest dual zip lines in the country. It runs about 50 miles an hour, lands in a big 50-foot tower down there. So it's a dual zip line, so you can go side by side.
So you can kind of have like a couples retreat, maybe do some team building,
Yeah,
good communication skills.
You know, just good old-fashioned race.
Can you actually do a race?
You can. So
What is
you're on
it?
the zip line for over a minute and a half, which is a long time to be riding on the cable.
So do you think it has more to do with like body weight? Am I gonna not have a high
Definitely
advantage
does. Yeah, the
to
heavier you
win?
are, the faster you're going to go. Yeah. Each one of these cables roughly weighs about a pound a foot, so each one is 2,300 feet. There's over a ton or 2 ton of suspended cable here. These anchors at the top go in 30 feet until we hit rock. We pull tested those for 30,000 pounds of pressure.
Oh, wow.
So this is a pretty serious structure. I mean, this thing can withstand some pretty serious winds. The cable has about 8,000 or 9,000 pounds of tension on it. And it has a breaking strength of roughly around 65,000 pounds. So we're nowhere near that. Even adding a person to that, taking a fall on that line, we're nowhere close to breaking that cable. We could zip one of those school buses down this zip line without breaking the cable. It would probably sag and hit the ground, but the cable would not break.
We're gonna pull that over it. So if you'll pull up everything by the...
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
So you'll wanna put these up over your shoulders and then everything will get a little bit easier after that.
Okay.
Bend forward and pull as evenly and tightly as possible.
As tightly as possible. Okay.
Yes, one finger in between those. So next is your leg loops. You'll wanna grab the buckle and kind of pull back. 2 fingers in between you and that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of your
tighter.
seat.
My nice little seat.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a lot of terrible ideas in my day. I've also had some pretty good ones. I don't know where this one lies on that scale. Hi.
Come on up. You got to step inside this cable here, and you got to sit. No, you're going by yourself. On that right. That's just you. Come on.
You haven't ever ridden the thing? What?
Go ahead and step in there. Can you do that waiver?
I don't really think I want to.
Okay. Where am I going? I'm going up the pole. You know, I have a really masochist way of enjoying the wilderness.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, we're going?
Going.
Okay. It's kind of like skiing in a sense, except without needing to have much of a skill. Oh boy. Okay. No one wants to come up here with me? Maybe? Oh my God. Woo! Woo boy. Okay. Helen, Georgia. This is so unnecessary. I think we're fine without the little more. No, really? I think we're okay. So do I have like a second? Oh, God. This is a terrible idea. Okay, hold on. Okay. At least I know that I got that off of my bucket list.
Habersham Winery has been in business for over 30 years. We produced our first wine in 1983. So we're one of Georgia's oldest and largest wineries in the state. And what we have in our Helen Tasting Room, which is also our winery, our main location, you can come in and do tastings here 7 days a week. We're open all year round. We have anywhere between 15 and 20 wines to choose from. So we have a wide selection of wines. We say anything from Merlot to Muscadines. All of our wines are made right here in the winery, and most of our grapes are grown locally. We do have 2 vineyards that we farm ourselves, and those vineyards are within 15 minutes of here. So a large portion of our production is from our own vineyards. So we do try to keep it all Georgia. Occasionally, if there's something special we want to do that's not grown in Georgia, we will outsource it outside of the state, but that's usually just for special occasions.
Well, I guess it's finally time for some wine tasting. I'm so excited.
Rough day at the job when you get to drink wine.
Oh yeah, you know,
Right.
it really just makes things so much more difficult.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, as we enter another wonderful day in the life of what it looks like on Georgia Detour, why don't you tell us what we have on the menu today?
Well, here at Habersham, we have between 15 and 20 wines at any given time between the 3 labels that we produce. So today we're going to just do a small sampling of what we do. When you come in, you can choose any 5 wines that you like on the list. But today we're going to start with Signet, which is our off-dry blend white. And this time it's a blend of Vidal, Seyval, a little Chenin Blanc.
Vidal, Seyval,
Chenin Blanc, yes, there you go. Very good. So it's an off-dry white blend, and it's a great food wine, good everyday wine. So we'll just taste a little Seyval.
Do we cheers at all?
Oh, we certainly should
We
do that.
should.
There
I
we
am
go.
excited.
Mhm.
Habersham Estate.
And this is a very popular wine for us. One of the reasons it's so popular is it's easy to drink, it's off-dry. Most everyone loves this. But also it has this beautiful bottle that has a trout on it.
Oh,
Yep.
this is amazing.
Go up with it. There we go. Oh.
I can taste like a nice little citrus. I don't know, what is that?
A little citrus, little grapefruit, very crisp and
I
clean.
knew it. I almost said grapefruit.
Grapefruit,
Oh,
yep.
I should have gone for it.
Very crisp and clean, and this is all stainless steel, so no oak on this wine. And it's one of our most popular wines. And then moving over to what we call Signet's sister wine is Scarlet. And Scarlet's been in our lineup for many years. It is our best-selling wine. It's a blend red. It's a blend red, off-dry, very easy to drink, very smooth, very little oak in this wine. It's typically about 60% Chambourcin, which is a French-American hybrid that we grow, and then a little Cabernet and a little white wine just to smooth it out. So it's
a lot of different flavors in
Yeah,
it, but it's
it's-
not quite a sister when it comes to taste, right?
no, very different,
Looks
very
a little
different. This is what we call is a little jammy, very smooth, easy to drink.
I'm gonna put my pinky up for this one.
Put your pinky up for that one. Smell the jamminess.
Wow.
And you said you like a Pinot Noir. This is not a Pinot, but it drinks very similarly to a Pinot Noir.
Yeah, it did. It's also really light, so I still felt like I was getting like the texture that I do with it.
Great food wine. It pairs with so many things. It's very easy. If you're going to a party, take this wine. Everyone at the party will like Scarlet.
Yes, I like that it's kind of neutral enough to where I don't feel like I'm taking a risk if I were to take this somewhere with
Right, and it pairs with so many different things. So yeah.
me. Now, what would you recommend for a pescatarian? If I want to have salmon and trout, and I also want to have a little bit of crab sprinkled to the side.
Okay, so probably what I would recommend is for your whitefishes, I would go with Signet, the first wine that we had. And then for the salmon, I would choose either Scarlet or our Merlot, which is a lighter Merlot, would be very nice with the salmon. So those are good pairings. And we're always open to giving suggestions for pairings. You can call us or email us and say, I'm having this dinner, what would you recommend? Or if you come in the tasting room, we're always giving food recommendations for people. They usually leave here hungry because we've talked about food so much with the wine.
Oh,
so,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Well, now I guess we're off to our second to last one, and
Yes.
I'm going to have cheese in mind as soon as I take a sip of this one.
Okay, this is actually this is our white muscadine from our Southern Harvest label, and this is when when you taste it, when you smell it, it's very grapey. So if you remember at your grandmother's house, if you grew up in the South, going out in the backyard and picking a muscadine and eating it, this is exactly what this is going to taste like, because it is in fact a muscadine. So I say it's muscadine with a kick. So it's got that grapiness, and it's sweet, but it's crisp and clean. So it's not sugary sweet. You know, it's very, very crisp and clean. So this is our best-selling white wine in the line.
Oh, even more than this one?
Signet, yes. So the two best-selling are Scarlet and White Muscadine for us. So.
Well, here I go. I am a Georgia Southern Peach after all.
Sweet but refreshing.
I feel like I just had dessert.
You did just have,
I'll
well,
take it.
you're really about to have dessert.
Oh, goodness.
Because what we're going to next.
Chocolate. You really just
Chocolate,
made my day. You're like the
wine.
best date I think I've ever had.
Oh, good. That's great. It's good to know I'm a good date. So our next little treat, actually last year, Georgia made it legal for us to fortify wines, finally in the state. So we've been producing the Chamberson dessert wine for many, many years, and through natural fermentation, we could go to about 16 to 17% alcohol. But with fortifying with brandy, then you get to more of the port category. So this is the first Chamberson that we've produced by fortifying. So we added brandy to this. And so it's actually 19.5% alcohol. It's a sweet dessert wine, and it goes really well with chocolate. So for you today, we've paired it with an edible chocolate cup. So we're going to do a little tasting with this.
This is absolutely adorable. This defines girls' night, but
it's decadent.
On a really dangerous look.
Yeah, this is, I used to say this is my Downton Abbey wine because I love to drink this when I'm watching Downton Abbey.
I like
sort of the decadence all sort of goes together.
Maybe I'll Grey's Anatomy with this.
Yeah, good. It's a good choice too.
I'm ready.
Woo. Sips. This is a sipping wine for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
I am so in my happy place right now.
Good. We like to take people to their happy place.
Often. We should really do this more often.
Mm-hmm.
We need to come here every Georgia Detour week.
I agree.
I can certainly understand some of Trini's reservations after seeing that huge swing. I'd have to hit the vineyard after that adrenaline rush too. After tonight's episode, I know you all have your itineraries ready for your next trip to North Georgia. And one thing you can always find here at Georgia Detours are adventures for whatever mood you're in. So we hope to see you next week here at GSU TV. I'm Darnell McAlpin, and thanks for tuning in.